Hi, Alice. Okay, so if you're looking at domain from an equation, if the equation looks like this, something like, I think you said x squared minus 6, if there's no square root and there's no fraction, then your domain is all real numbers, which is negative infinity to infinity, also known as all real numbers. Because you're not dividing, so you're not dividing by 0, that's a restriction. You're not taking the square root, you're squaring a number. Any number can be squared. So there's no restriction on what the value of x could be. X could be anything. That's why the domain is everything. Only when you have a square root, if this were like the square root of, say, like x minus 6, I wouldn't put an x squared in there, then what's under the square root can't be negative. This whole thing can't be negative. And since it can't be negative, the way we say that is x minus 6 must be greater than or equal to 0. That's not negative if it's greater than or equal to 0. And then when you solve that and you add 6 to both sides, you get that x must be greater than or equal to 6. So your domain is all real numbers such that x is greater than or equal to 6. That's only if you have a square root. And then if you have a fraction, so this is like one type of problem, another type of problem. If you have a fraction, let me scroll down here, like f of x equals x minus 5 over x plus 7, then you can't divide by 0. So the denominator of this whole thing can't equal 0. So you take that and you say, well, what value of x would produce 0 in the denominator if I subtract 7 on both sides? X cannot be negative 7, because negative 7, if I plug it into the denominator, negative 7 plus 7 will be 0. So here my domain is all real numbers such that x does not equal negative 7. Just this one number that x can't be. So again, going back up to the top, if you have a situation like where in the first example, it's moving everything around now, but in the first example where it was just like an equation with no square root, no fraction, and it's just like x squared minus 6 or anything, absolute value of x, anything that doesn't have a square root or a fraction, the domain is all real numbers. Okay? And then in your second question, which is a word problem, when you have to answer with the range, in those questions, hold on, let me get a new blank page. Okay, sorry, I can't get a blank page. With the word problems, I'm gonna have to just scroll this up. I'm sorry for this. The word problems said specifically, so the example you're thinking of was like on your exam, I think you had a question like, the domain is all integer values such that x is like greater than or equal to negative 2 and less than positive 3, say, find the range. If the problem says the domain is all integer values, right, then you have to plug in each number individually. And yes, you have to list them. So negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2 would be your domain, because those are the integers, meaning no decimals, between negative 2 and positive 3. There's an equal sign, so I'm including negative 2, and there's no equal sign on the 3, so I'm not including 3. And I plug those into the function. Let's say I give you like the function of like a simple one, like x minus 2. So I'm going to plug in negative 2 minus 2. So I'm going to find f of negative 2, which is negative 2 minus 2, which is negative 4. Then I'm going to find f of negative 1, which is negative 1 minus 2, which is negative 3. Then I'm going to find f of 0, which is 0 minus 2, that's negative 2. Then I'm going to find f of 1, which is 1 minus 2, which is negative 1. And then I'll find f of 2, which is 2 minus 2, which is 0. And no, I can't use interval notation here because I said integer values. And so I'm going to just give my range as the list of negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0. Okay? So that's why you would list them, because I'm saying integer values. All right? And same thing if I gave you a domain. If I didn't even say this part and I just gave you a domain, like this is the domain and find the range, again, no interval notation, because we're just looking at these specific x values and not the decimals in between. If you use interval notation, then you're saying it's all the decimals between those numbers. All right, I hope this helps, and you can email me if you have any more questions. All right, bye.